Grandparents 70M and 70F cut out of my kid's life, 35F. Should I allow them back in? Heads up, this is going to be a long one. I'm not entirely sure where to start, but my ex-husband left me and our two children, then 1 and 2 years old, almost 10 years ago. He just came home shortly after our anniversary and said that he hated me and hated our kids, and needed us to leave as soon as possible. At the time, I believed our marriage was happy and healthy. This literally came out of the blue, and I was caught completely unaware. We had no money issues. We were making long-term plans of buying a home and career plans. We were still going on date nights and having sex very regularly, so I had no idea where this was coming from. I was devastated, and it took me years to get over this. And I have never received an answer for the reason for his decision. I respected his decision, and within a week flew to his parents' home. At the time, my MIL and I were very, very close. I texted her multiple times a day and always kept his parents up to date with pictures, appointments, and videos of their grandsons. When I first arrived, everything was normal, but that didn't last long. There was a weird tension within the household, and I felt like I wasn't wanted. As I was trying to figure out what to do with my marriage, if this was really over, or if my husband was going through some sort of mental breakdown, trying to figure out how to be a single mother and working out income/work balance, I was also dealing with my own issues with the dramatic change in my life. Within the month of me arriving, my MIL came to me and said that this living arrangement wasn't working, and I needed to find another place to live, which I readily agreed. They were much older, and having 2 toddlers and another adult within a small space was tight, to say the least, and of course, there was that weird tension. I explained to her I was actually already looking at some apartments close by and had a job interview lined up within that week, and as soon as I could, the kids and I would move out. Her response was, "No, we mean you need to leave and leave the boys with us." I looked at her, shock on my face, and said that I would think about it. As soon as she left, I called a distant relative and relayed to her what happened. She advised me to leave as soon as I could and was concerned that my Philomel were trying to take the kids away from me. With this advice and feeling panicked, I decided to go ahead and leave then and there. I packed as much as I could and left to go to my own family members. My in-laws tried to stop me and take my children, in which I told them they couldn't kick me out and take my children. I asked them to move, and I placed my children in the car first before grabbing our things and left. I'm taking a pause to add that my in-laws were the passive-aggressive controlling type. If things weren't done in the way that they would have done and how they believe something should be done, they would nag, guilt-trip, and gaslight you until you folded into whatever they wanted. This was something that was always a point of contention within our relationship, because even though it worked for my then-husband, it never worked for me. They were also the type that they never made a suggestion without making plans for it first. So when my family mentioned that they were more than likely in the process of taking the children from me legally, I didn't doubt it in the least. Up until this incident, my in-laws and I had what I believed was a very, very good relationship built on respect and love. I viewed this as a betrayal and worked on rebuilding my life closer to my family rather than my ex-husband's. After almost a year of no contact with my in-laws, I spoke to the same family member about making amends with my in-laws. I stressed that I didn't want my boys to grow up without their grandparents like I had, and even though she was tentative, she agreed I should do what is best. I made the first attempt. We talked it out and pushed it under the rug. We began again with daily communication of videos, texts, FTing at nighttime, and keeping them constantly in contact with their grandsons. When it was time for my ex-husband to take the kids for visitations, it was always his mother that I worked the arrangements with. There were a few incidents in this time period where there were some passive-aggressive remarks and suggestions that I bypassed. Secret. Plans would be made regarding the children that they would intentionally not tell me about, that I was able to navigate through. Despite this, we were back to saying, "Love you," at the end of our calls and sending memes and jokes to one another throughout the day. Then came the year that my ex wasn't able to take the kids due to finances. I spoke to my MIL and suggested that instead of flying, we could drive and meet halfway, and I'd be more than happy to drop off the boys for their visit. This was planned in the spring of the year, and the visit wouldn't happen until the holidays. As the day started coming closer and closer, something didn't feel right within me. It just didn't feel right. I mentioned this to a friend, and she had mentioned that I shouldn't feel odd because my ex was able to come. That stopped me in my tracks, and I asked her what she meant. I didn't know it, but she had kept tabs on my ex, where he posted that he was flying in. Again, he couldn't afford it, and was excited to see everyone. I called my in-laws, who were already on their way, and straight up confronted my MIL. She was instantly nervous and stuttering, and made the weak excuse that she thought my ex and I had corresponded about this. She absolutely knew that I hadn't spoken to her son and hadn't for over a year. I told her I didn't care that he was coming since it was his holiday, but I didn't enjoy the lack of respect for me that they were hiding this from me. She asked me if I was still meeting them, and I said I would. I drove the 14 hours one way and dropped off the kids, and it was very obvious I was not happy and very angry about the whole interaction. She called her son, my ex-husband, and he called me to try to smooth things over, which didn't do anything at all. I left and allowed them to have their visit and picked the boys up 10 days later. The entire time, I spent the time trying to rationalize and reason with why my in-laws constantly behaved the way they did, and trying to keep my emotions under check, but couldn't figure it out. I was extremely hurt about this and would often start crying about it. I picked up the boys and kept a low-contact profile with my in-laws, which, since we were constantly texting, calling all throughout the days, was very evident that something was wrong. My MIL asked me what was going on, and I wrote her a long email letting her know that I was extremely hurt by their treatment of me, and I was trying to figure out my emotions from that. Her response was to basically call me insane and immature, and that she had no idea what I was talking about. My response from that was to inform her that I had no intentions to keep contact with her or Fael and have the children around people that would so blatantly disrespect their mother. A few years later, my ex-husband called me, he rarely calls, requesting that I start reaching out to his mother and allow her to get back into the kids' lives. I explained to him that my decision was firm, and I had no intention of doing so. Even though this interaction was years ago, I can't help but wonder if that was the right decision, so well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible Reddit tales. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring those amazing stories.